help is when I'm ocean waves.
Today on UVA and Nova Legends podcast, I have Amanda Cromwell, someone I've admired from afar for many years. Been trying to get her to talk to me for a while. Coaches, thanks for doing this. Great to meet you.
Thank you for having me. It's always good to feel like I'm back in Northern Virginia a little bit. Do you still live there? I forgot to ask you.
No, I live in Loudon, so I guess it's considered Northern Virginia, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have roots there. So I love following what you do on Facebook and giving a lot of props to the sports legends that have come out of our state, especially our region. We were pretty blessed, especially I know at Annandale High School we had a great run, both soccer and basketball.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, Annandale was a great sports school before you got there for football. It was legendary for football. And then Northern Virginia, particularly for women's soccer, it's unbelievable the kind of talent and thought leadership that came from that area. I mean, Jill Ellis yourself, Sue Patberg, Sue Montaigne, Barbara Wickstrand, but great players like Holly Helmuth, also a great coach, and Mia Hamm, and we can just go on. You were raised with such a great generation of women's soccer players and leaders.
I was really fortunate, and not only soccer players, but coaches. And when I talk to people, it was very rare because I had female coaches growing up as well. And not many people had that. I had a female coach in high school, basketball and soccer. My club coaches was a married couple. They were awesome. Was that
Michelot?
No, they were the year below, I think. It was Carolyn Rice, who was also the Lake Reddick. So Carolyn and Rick Rice.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And their daughter, Emily, played on our team and ended up playing at UNC. And so not only great players, but coaching was awesome too. And I felt like Sue Bodica was someone that helped out with our club. Jill came in, her dad, John Ellis, came in with our club because we were very good. We made a national champion. We lost in the national championship. I think our last run at it. And I was going to tell you, I don't know if you know, my older brother, Tad, was on that national championship football team.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I have two older brothers and two older sisters, and they both brothers played. I think Tad was the only one that played football, but they played basketball, soccer. But Tad was officially on that team. And I don't know how they claim a national championship since they don't really have a tournament then. But I think from rankings, they were number one in the country, as I remember.
That's the way college football did it for years, so I guess it counts.
True. That's very true.
So, yeah. And I believe I saw the real estate. I used to live in Arlington up until a few months ago, and I used to see signs from Marshall Cromwell. That's your brother as well, isn't it?
Realtor?
Yeah. Is Marshall your brother?
Yeah, that's my brother. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought he was also, and was he an athlete as well, or?
Yes, he did. He played mostly, I remember soccer in high school and basketball. I don't remember him playing basketball or football, but he may have.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a quick bio. It's pretty extraordinary. You're 88 class of Annandale. I know you won a state championship in basketball. I was there. Amazing game. I didn't know if you guys won state in soccer as well. I don't believe you did.
My sophomore year we did.
Oh my God. So you won state in basketball and soccer, which probably is, I'm sure it's rare. You went to UVA. I went to all your games. I was dating one of your teammates. You probably don't remember that.
I do remember that, actually.
Class of 1992. You're on the national team. Won the World Cup in 1995. We're alternate on the Olympic team in '96, the Atlanta Olympics games, and then you got into coaching at UMBC, and then you played for several pro teams, including the Washington Freedom. And I think when you really established yourself as a coach was the University of Central Florida. You were there for 14 years. I know you had a very successful camp business there as well. I don't know if that still is ongoing today.
It was when I was still coaching at UCLA. I kept a week of my camp still in Orlando area. I ended up partnering with the Rollins coach and doing a few years there. So that was a business I kind of tried to keep alive, a lot for recruiting purposes.
Yeah. And then you went to UCLA. Unbelievable record there. You won 4-time Pac-10 Pac-12, I get
Pac-12?
confused. Pac-2 now, champion
Yeah, really.
in a 2013 national champs. That's got to be a shiny moment. And lately, you got into the consulting business. Cromwell Coaching, coaching is hot now, and coaching is an awesome way. A lot of times when folks need to talk to someone, you don't want to go to a psychiatrist or psychologist because that might show up on your healthcare and your premiums go up. Coaching is hot now because it's a way to talk to someone without it sounding like something's wrong with you. Even though obviously there's nothing wrong with people that seek coaching and psychological help as well. But anyway, let's start with that. That's really interests me. I know that coaches make great principals. Coaches make great administrators. You manage the coaches on your team. You manage the players on your team. You inspire people. You give speeches. A lot of things that executives do, coaches do. It looks like an exciting new opportunity. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your new business?
Coaching for 25 years in college, really, it is like running like a mini corporation because you're in charge of the budget and recruiting and equipment ordering and scheduling and alumni relations and donors. So you have all of these things off the field that a lot of people don't even realize. It's not just about X's and O's and tactics and game philosophy and getting ready for training. So I feel like through my 25 years of coaching college, I have a lot to give to not only the kind of the coaching world, but just people in whether it's career change, executives, transition moments. It's going to be exciting to see how everything I learned through the years as a coach, obviously management of people, giving and receiving feedback. How do you, conflict resolution, like I mentioned, transition, where as coaches and for athletes, we're so used to having a daily basis, weekly basis, we have to make decisions that people don't agree with. And that's a hard place to be in. You have to make a roster every weekend, sometimes twice a weekend, and you have to leave people out. And you still have to manage a group that you want to have, camaraderie and cohesiveness and build a culture of inclusivity. So all of these things are what I want to try to help people with in their environments, as whether it's professional environment or in personal environment. I want to give some of what I've learned through my years, but also it's not necessarily about me being a coach. It's about me being a good listener and someone that can help someone get to an end goal that they maybe don't even know they desire yet. I think I was good at inspiring my athletes to change, maybe to see a possible outcome that maybe they didn't realize was their potential, and asking for what they want. That's a big thing too. So I'm hoping to use a lot of the tools I have through my career to just help other people at this point.
Yeah. So when you think about the services that you're going to provide and the things coaches do that you just talked about, were those things you enjoyed as a coach, or did you find those things distracting as a coach? Did you want to just focus on the soccer, or did you like recruiting? Did you like talking to parents? Did you like expectations? Did you like all the things that a coach does? Do you enjoy that part of the coaching?
There was parts of recruiting I did not enjoy at all. Like sitting at a field for 6 hours at a time and watching game after game after game, you go a little numb, and everyone starts to, you can't differentiate, who's fast, who's slow, who can jump, who can has skill. It all becomes like a blur. But I did enjoy the building relationship part and getting to know people and what makes them tick. Because as a coach, when you build your teams, and then this might be a team in your business culture, when you build a team, you want personalities to be able to mesh. And if you have a lone wolf that's gonna blow it up, so to speak, that could be a problem. It doesn't mean it's gonna be a problem, but it could be a problem. And so that's, everyone kind of has those environments as well. But in my experience, the showing players what it looks like to have expectations. What does it look like to have goals? What are you going to do to get there? It's a lot of, you don't want to just talk. You need to follow through with action. And so I love that part of it, and seeing the players achieve things academically, go on to become, doctors and lawyers and teachers and starting their own business and occupational therapists or getting their PhD. Like all these things are there's so many careers that players I've coached have gone on to that I just, and I also love seeing them become mothers. And, I know that's probably the hardest one, being a mother of three. I just was talking to one of my players last week who's she's a certified counselor, but she's been, a stay-at-home mom for a couple of years and with 3 kids. And I'm like, well, that's the hardest thing you could be doing. So, but all these tools that they garnered in being a college athlete and a college teammate, I think they've all taken on with them to their careers and their family life.
Yeah. Well, part of the services you'll provide, are you going to, like, if a coach wants you to get in the weeds and talk about soccer strategy, the X and O's, are you willing to do that as well? Or are you going to stick to more the big picture
Yeah, I'll do both. I do want coaching to be a little bit of focus to start to see, so I can have a bird's eye view, like you say, and help people, maybe expand their perspective and their vision of what they might be trying to achieve. I absolutely love talking tactics, X's and O's. I love watching videos. One of my favorite things to do as a coach, and seeing, like the chess match of a game. And I loved in-game coaching as well. So that's going to be part of it. That's definitely the consulting side of it, where I can use my expertise to help hopefully a team perform better based on maybe where they are currently with their programs. But first, I want to approach everybody with like a little coaching first, just so we can zoom out and to see really what are the issues potentially, how can I help?
Yeah, I know it's still early days, but do you project that most of your clients will be soccer coaches or coaches generally, or do you think and hope that you'll have a broad spectrum of executives that you counsel?
That was my expectation early on, would be more in the sports world. But I think as I have a connection, actually someone else that went to UVA and was my teammate, Liz Bentley and Associates. She's been in the consulting or coaching world for over 10 years now. And so I'm looking to join forces with her. And she herself and coaches that she works with have clientele from every genre, every business you can think of, executives, executives from in the sports world, like Milwaukee Brewers, to CEOs, to whatever you can think of. So I think my expertise and where my connections will be more in the sports world. And that will be, I think I can find a lot of, satisfaction in knowing I can whether help the next generation of coaches, whether it's coaches in transition, maybe there's young female coaches that are, trying to, there's still a lot of gender bias issues in the coaching world. And there's a lot of bias issues in the world, obviously, but especially in coaching, there's, even with coaching women, there's still so much that I think females come up against as head coaches, assistant coaches, and even in the club coaching world, you hear about it. So I want to help coaches that are dealing with this adversity in different ways, and help them kind of see what their vision might be, empower them to have a grander vision than maybe what they were thinking of. And, I don't know exactly what all the clients will look like. But, to start off, it's, I have different people, different ages, different sectors. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a challenge as well.
Yeah, I think people would be crazy not to use your services and get all the information you can provide, and also the inspiration. Would you also foresee one day maybe having consultants work for you, maybe people you coached or coaches that work with you, and actually have them work alongside you as part of Cromwell Coaching?
I have thought of that, and especially with talking with one of my former UCF players last week, knowing she is a certified counselor, she could maybe add a different dimension to, maybe she works more with college athletes or high school athletes that are, when I talk to my former players now, as adults that have like lived in the world, there's so much that they look back like, oh, I wish I had done this, or had explored doing some things differently. And so I think bringing some people on board as associates, like you said, could really help multiple generations, and whether it's future college athletes or just high school kids looking to what college they want to go to. There's so much growth and development for these between 14 and 22 years old, when the high school college years. I think everyone, and you mentioned needing a coach or using somebody just as a different perspective. And I wish I hadn't used, I have mentors, I have people I talk to and give me great advice, and I always knew I could utilize them, but I never used someone consistently, whether on a weekly or bi-monthly or whatever it might be. And I wish I had, because there are some things I think I could have been a better coach, and been better at maybe giving feedback, receiving feedback, and also helping whether it's my assistants or the players give and receive feedback. Because to me, that's the biggest thing today, that it's a really big challenge for the athletes. A lot of coaches are dealing with entitlement, feeling of like you're walking on eggshells, because if you hurt someone's feelings, or if you say the wrong thing, or someone's not agreeable to your decision, it's the Wild West out there a little bit today. And I want to help coaches get their teams that so they know that hey, this is our goal, these are our standards, these are our expectations, and if there's conflict to resolve, this is how we do it, and this is how we give and receive feedback. And this is a culture of openness and a culture of integrity and authenticity.
Yeah, you're talking about walking on eggshells. I interviewed the Yorktown basketball coach who stepped down, and he was told, the boys basketball coach, he was told that he couldn't read the stat line to the kids at halftime because it might hurt people's feelings. Wow. And so it's not like he was singling people out for not hustling or something that you couldn't quantify. He couldn't even read the stat line to the players. And that's why one of the reasons why he claimed he stepped down. Now, years ago, I met a coach from Holland. His name was Hans. I'm sure there's a lot of Hans from, but I can't remember his last name. But he told me what a coach needs to do is solve problems. Yeah. You have a team, you got to figure out the problem out, and that's how you improve the team. So, do you see yourself jumping on a plane and going to practice and helping sometimes if they want that, or do you see most of your role being virtual with film and just on a Zoom call or a telephone call with the coach?
I think most of it will be virtual, but I would be open to jumping on a plane to kind of get into the weeds a bit and seeing how I can help, because it is problem solving and managing. Like, you have to manage people, and then to manage people, you need to know how people work. And so I've been reading a lot of books as well, just on how to reframe and rethink, and because everyone has their own perspectives and implicit biases based on where they were brought up, who their friends are, who their parents are, like what kind of culture they've been in. And we need to get rid of all those biases. And it's so hard because people don't even see them sometimes. And that's how we need to get people to open up to, like, hey, how can you look at that differently?
Yeah.
What are some things, what are some questions a coach can ask somebody to get a player, or maybe an assistant coach? Hey, can you look at that differently? Can you reframe that situation to maybe see a different perspective? And to me, it's almost like the managing is almost more important right now than the tactical side, which is crazy to think about. But
yeah,
I think, you really have to, and for me as a coach, that I got, during season, I would get blinders on, and it's all about results, right? Results. And you really got to make sure you have people around you. So I valued my assistant coaches so much, because they complimented me very well. Like we all didn't, bring the same thing to the table. they weren't yes people. They weren't just like, oh yeah, falling all over everything I said. They would challenge me, and they would hold me accountable. And that was the biggest thing over my career, that I was thankful for. One of the biggest things is having these amazing assistants around me that could step up to the plate and also challenge the team as well. So I wasn't always the bad cop, so to speak. There was times where we, you have the, good parent, bad parent kind of situation. There's always times to feed off of that, but it can be very isolating for a head coach to always be the one to kind of just lay down the loss, and it's too hard. And so you have to have assistants around you that complement what you bring to the table. And it might be personality, it might be tactical, might be, philosophies, because we all come from, it was such a gift for me to have assistants like, hey, how about this? Like they love the game as much as I did. So they would bring, whether it's formations or, hey, let's try this. So they would bring it to the table in such a way that we could have a conversation about it. And it was very, inviting. And that's what you need to have a environment that's inviting for people to walk in your door. And it's an open door policy, and nothing's going to be shut down. Obviously, you got to be respectful in how you do it and do it at the right time. But I was very fortunate to have amazing assistants around me for 25 years.
Yeah. Well, when Lori Gregg coached you at UVA, it was women's soccer had just been a varsity sport at UVA, I think, for 6 or 7 years. This is really exciting times in terms of development and bringing women's sports to the forefront. When you think of the changes to the game over the last, not to date us, but the last 30 years, geez, are there tools that you're excited about that you can share with your clients? Like, for example, leveraging the transfer portal. Now, it used to be a time when, when you recruited a player to go to UCLA or wherever, it was a contract. They were going to give you some time. You're going to give them some time to develop. There was some trust. Nowadays, it's, if they go there, they don't play right away, they could be gone. There are some schools, rumors, I don't know anything but they kind of force kids into the transfer portal. It's a very different time. Are there things that you're excited about coaching now, and that you can also help your clients leverage?
Yeah, I mean, it is the Wild West with not only the transfer portal, but also the NIL deal. Region. It is. It's a whole new ballgame in college right now, and it's going to be interesting to see. The conferences all shifting, and the rivalries of old. It's going to be, like you mentioned, the Pac-12. It's like, what is the Pac-12 now? Pac-2. So yeah, they're between how to utilize the transfer portal and also video software, how to utilize analytics. I was really big. When at UCF, we were one of the first college teams to use GPS and heart rate monitors. We worked in collaboration with the master's PhD department there with physiology and sports movement, and they were awesome. So they actually ran studies on our team, and I'm a biology major, so I kind of geek out at the data of it, whether it's the physical data, the metrics, or some tactical data. There's so much now you can receive from a game, whether it's which video footage and all the metrics, but you have to be careful of not taking too much and overloading the team as well, because it's going to be so much data. And that's why a lot of teams have specific like data analysts and video analysts to pull out, so the coaches don't have to get inundated either. But I think I'd be, because of my love for it, I could help a coach with discerning what data is good to use and how much of it to use.
Yeah. Well, we talked earlier about coaches and walking on eggshells at the high school level, and I interview a lot of high school coaches as well. I'm not sure why any of these guys coach because the pay is so low, and there's still so much pressure on them, and there's other challenges they have in their lives as well besides their coaching. College coaches, at least we've gotten to a point where women's coaches are paid a pretty solid wage, which is nice. But do you think women coaches in general are getting the support that they need, or is this kind of what your business is all about?
I think they are getting like the support they need, and in some respects, not and like when you look at Division I schools, there's over 300 women's soccer teams in Division I. So not everyone's getting what they need at those 300 plus schools. So this is what I think I can be a resource as a professional development. A lot of the budgets have line items in there for professional development. So I could be seen as someone that's like, hey, I've been there, done that. How can I help you in your development as a coach, as a manager, as a leader? Because not all the schools, like, they might have seminars or workshops. They bring a speaker in, and it's but I can make it more personalized and really take their like current competencies and their perceptions, like what's going on here. Again, come out in the bird's eye view, and just because even with your assistants, it's like you want someone different, someone with a different perspective to talk to, because it's not always beneficial to just kind of keep hammering home the same things with your staff. And so I think the budgets do have room for this kind of thing, to bring in coach / consultant, and that could, down the road, it could help these programs, and maybe they avoid something that whether there's some conflict that now an administrator is getting involved with, or there's so many things going on in the college world or the sports world these days, all across the world, really. So it's like, how can we be preemptive and do a lot of education on it and teaching, and I come back to the word authenticity. I would implore coaches to get to know their recruits, and obviously high school you don't have that luxury, but to make sure these players are going to be authentic with you, and be willing to work hard, and be willing to put in the extra hours, whether it's schoolwork, to make sure they stay eligible, that they're determined, and they're going to communicate with you, because that's another thing that's different today than everyone communicates through their phones and texting and DMs and social media. And so a lot of the younger players just don't know how to interact face to face, especially with coaches or people in authority positions. So that's another challenge that coaches need to really deal with, and have maybe outside consultant for.
So, Amanda, exactly what types of services are you going to provide? I understand it's going to be some one-on-one coaching. Are you also going to offer a whole staff your time as well?
Yes. So the one-on-one sessions, we're doing kind of packages, and that's for anybody. I'm working with as young as a 13-year-old right now, and 40-year-old, and obviously way different times of their life. But I really want to open it up to whoever is looking for that kind of coaching and consulting. And then we're doing staff coaching up to 5 people, to try to lead a staff in their cohesion and some of their, what are they looking to do with some of their goals, and how can they empower each other, but also give back to the program and to the players. And this can be like tactical, philosophy based. It can be about culture, maybe how they interact with each other, whatever challenges they have, they would bring to the table. They always would send in the one-on-one sessions and these small group sessions. The client sets the agenda. So that's the main thing. And it's like kind of a co-creative process of trying to get to end result with some action points and action items. And then the third thing is maybe whether it could be a corporation or a club. they bring me on as almost a retainer where they have multiple coaches that might want to utilize my services. And so that's something where I'm talking to a club right now in LA about doing that. So, we would decide how many coaches per month would have my services. And, it's up to their coaches in their corporation or club or employee to then utilize me if they feel that it's needed.
Let's say a youth club wanted to hire you to talk to all their coaches, like kind of give them a coaching one-on-one or just things to look for, pitfalls to avoid. Is that a service you'll offer as well?
Yeah, that'd be part of the kind of the club collective. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Well, Amanda, when you think about this great coaching career that you had, who was the first coach that inspired you, that first made you believe that, one day I want to coach?
That's an interesting question because I had many coaches that inspired me, but I didn't plan on coaching for my career until I got into coaching. I was a biology major. I was going to go to med school. I took my MCATs. But I had coaches along the way. You mentioned Lauren Gregg at UVA. I had coaches, Rick and Carolyn Rice with my Braddock Road Cyclones team. My high school coaches, basketball and soccer. They all inspired me in different ways to be the best I could be as a teammate, as someone that was going to give everything they had. I was a captain on many of those teams. So, I developed my leadership skills under those coaches. And then when I go on to the national team, Anson had a big impact on me. Tony DeChico, Lauren Gregg again was an assistant coach there. So Tony, I had a great relationship with him, and he brought me in as an assistant for the U20 World Cup. We coached in 2008, I believe, that we won a World Cup together as coaches, which was pretty cool. And that's where I was, really diving into like, oh, this is like, I started having more of the aspiration of like, do I want to coach the national team? Do I want to coach in the World Cup? And, Pia had brought me in for this is when she was the national team coach. She brought me in for one of the camps to be an assistant. And this is when I was still at UCF and, not knowing where my career might go. And I always had a few schools on my list of like, if that job opens, Virginia obviously was one, but UCLA, I just knew, I knew Jill Ellis very well. And we talked multiple times about her challenges. Like everyone looks at UCLA and thinks it's a cakewalk. It's not. Everywhere has their challenges, whether it be, budgets or scheduling or travel or whatever it might be.
Where it's a cakewalk, it's also high expectations.
High expectation. Everyone, it's like you're expected to win the conference, but that could be as hard as winning a national championship when you have Stanford and SC and Cal. All of us were. I think there was one year that SC did not win the conference, but they won the national championship. So that's how good that conference was, especially, when you had Sam Ewis and Abby Dahlkemper and, the list goes on of all the women on national teams and playing professional right now and from all the schools, Jessie Fleming and Katarina Macario from Stanford, Jessie and Katarina, Jessie played for us and they were at the same time. And it was one of those, and Katarina almost came to UCLA and it was like, oh, that would have been awesome to see them play together. And now they're at Chelsea together. So I haven't, once they start getting their games going, I can't even think straight of where they are in their season. But yeah, I think, yeah.
Because the World Cup, everything got pushed back.
Yeah. That'll be fun. But I'm not even sure what the question was anymore.
Well, one thing, man, I've always wanted to ask you is, I saw you play basketball and soccer at a young age, but you were a fantastic basketball player. I think the game I saw you play, you set the record for steals in the state championship, a game that lasted for many, many years. Do you think you would have been, I'm sure you would have been, but did you ever think about how you could have been a successful basketball coach as well? Did that ever interest you, coaching basketball?
It's funny. I never thought about coaching it, but I wish one of my regrets in life is I should have tried to walk on at Virginia. And that's back when Don Staley and Tammy
Yeah.
Reese were there, and the Burge twins, and
Yeah.
they made their Final Four run. I'm not sure how many, but that would have been fun to just kind of push myself. But I know, like, I was playing national team. It would have been tough, but I also, some of my friends around the country are basketball coaches in college, and I've different times I've visited them. I was on the scout team. I happened to be there when they were training, and so they bring in, a lot of times they bring in male players for scout teams, and I'm like, yeah, I'll play. And I'm, like you said, it's funny you bring up the steals, because I was probably a better defender than offensive threat, but I think I would make my free throws pretty consistently as well. But I love to be a point guard. I do love the tactics of basketball, and there's a lot of similarities with triangles and movements. And there was one time, you'll get a kick out of this. A team in the Pac-12 was marking us, like literally man marking us all over the field, and you don't see that very much in soccer. And you could just drag a player around. So we one of our training sessions, it was like a basketball practice where we were like kind of go set a pick almost, and let's see where we can drag them. And it reminded me of basketball, and I loved it. We also, in the off season, we would go and play futsal in the gym, and then at the end of futsal, I was like, hey, who wants to play and stay and play some pickup basketball? And then we'd get a good like a little 3v3 4v4 game going, and I'd always play in. And I mean, I think they were pretty impressed with my basketball skills.
Oh, yeah. Well, did you ever use that drill? Soccer teams use that drill where they throw the ball around because it encourages you to do spacing. That's so at a young age, you'll see teams using that drill. Did you ever use
yeah, we call it team handball.
Yeah, team handball.
Yeah, we would do it. Sometimes we'd do it for like the match day -1, like warm up. Because it's fun and it gets them going. And if you ask my UCF or UCLA players if they ever played that, they'd probably have a big smile on their face. And we'd make the way they score different. Sometimes it would be off, you have to score with your head, like you have to throw it to someone to score with their head. If there was trash cans around, we would say you somehow would have to hit the trash can or get it in the trash can. So we would make it different with the rules. But basketball is a great sport to couple with soccer, just for the movement, angles, all the tactics of it. And it's, the different systems in your body that you use with aerobic and anaerobic, and just the cutting and pivoting. I think they're great complementary sports to play.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to your high school senior year when you guys won the state basketball championship. Now, that's a huge moment in any athlete's life, because it's just, they're going, I think you guys were at UVA, it was at UVA, but it's just, traveling. And it was really interesting your senior year because you had Asia Berkeley on your team, a pal of yours, great podcast interview you had with Asia a few years ago. You had knockdown shooter Anne-Marie Kennedy, I believe, on your team.
Yeah.
So you had, but you're playing against great soccer players who are also basketball players, like Braddock, Laura Teeter, one of my favorite players. I thought she was fantastic in basketball. They had Colette Cunningham. They had my buddy Liz Pike, Lee, who you played in the semis maybe. They had Holly Helmuth, who was a star at University of Massachusetts and also soccer star at Lee. So that must have been a very exciting time competing against all your pals and also your competitors.
Yeah, it was interesting because a lot of the names you mentioned were on competing club soccer teams as well. So we had, and Holly was a year younger, so was Colette. I just reconnected with Colette recently, talking about some stuff. So that was, the pictures I have from that tournament. I think it was in Richmond, as I recall.
I don't remember.
But the pictures I have from that tournament, it's just such a great throwback, and it shows you what soccer players make good basketball players, and vice versa. And Laura Teeter, man, she was so hard to contain. As I remember, she was a lefty, right? Asia's a lefty, and I talked to Asia this morning. She's she's out in LA, so I talk to her quite often. Anne-Marie, I saw recently, well, not recently, but Annandale High School had their first Hall of Fame induction.
Wow.
And this was right before COVID, I believe. Maybe it's 2019. And I was inducted as an individual athlete, but then the whole basketball team was inducted.
Okay. Yeah.
For the state championship, or maybe the soccer team was inducted first. Now I can't remember which one. I think
Yeah.
soccer was inducted first because that was the first state championship at Annandale from a female team, a women's
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the boys football. I mean, the football team was so legendary. I think it kind of overwhelmed everything. And you guys put the girls at Annandale on the map. So, but when you're an athlete that and a coach has accomplished so much, are the high school days memorable? When you win a state championship, does that rank anywhere on your shining moments, or does it kind of get lost because you did so much afterwards?
Oh, it definitely ranks because those people were so special and all those relationships. I remember and it wasn't even just about winning the championships. It was just, going down to Florida for a preseason tournament for basketball and all the fun we had, all the friendships, the connections. That's kind of what you remember for the rest of your life. And I'm really good friends with a lot of high school on the men's side too. I don't know, like Julio Lacayo, who played football. I think he went on and won a national championship with Allegheny College, and Pat Thomason played football, went on to play at Cincinnati. Jim Knapp, Robin Jennings, who played Major League Baseball. But all these connections from high school. I remember winning the state championship. I think it was at Woodson, and for soccer, and all these guys are coming out. These guys were as excited for us as any of our female friends. It was awesome. We had such great support, and really felt inclusive at Annandale. And I loved those days. I loved the club scene as well, and then going on to colleges and beyond. I obviously had an awesome career, and winning championships is tremendous. Getting that Gatorade bucket over your head as a coach is feeling.
Does that hurt? I don't think that would feel very good. What is that like? No one's ever doused me with Gatorade.
Well, if you get the water, it's fine. It can be cold because they put so much ice in there. But if it's actual Gatorade, it's so sticky. And so I remember one at UCF. There's a picture of me. I'm just holding my hands like this, and there's orange Gatorade coming down my hair and face. And I learned later to try to run, to be, you're so into the game, you're not even thinking about the celebration. You're just, holding on, let's get this done. And there was a picture at UCLA, I think it was the Pac-12 championship, and I'm running, and one of the, I think the student managers are grabbing my arm because I see the big bucket coming to get me. But man, those are good feelings, and I don't care how sticky it is. Any coach would want that.
Yeah, Gatorade bath is a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I refereed a couple of Coach Hagan's games, but I don't remember that much about her. What was she like to play for?
Coach Hagan she knew her stuff and was just this is what we're doing. These are our players. I just felt like it was very matter of fact, practical. Loved us, loved everything that we, as students and athletes, and but she wasn't hard. You have other coaches that you remember for being a little bit more motivating or a little harder on you. She just seemed to be very even keel, and that was a nice presence, especially in high school, when you just kind of you just need just a little stability in those years. And her, where she came from, heart of gold, and but also competitive, wanted to win. And I was happy for her when we won that. And also our assistant coach, Miss Tracy, she was also my English teacher. And I had a lot of respect for what she brought to the table as the JV and the assistant for us.
Yeah, I would think when you're as competitive as you are, you don't really need a hard person riding you, because my guess is you're pretty tough on yourself as well. Let's talk about going to UVA. Now, when I went to UVA, it was an adjustment for me because it felt like a real Southern city, a real Southern town. And coming from Northern Virginia, I felt it was relatively progressive for those days. I didn't know any better, but when I came to UVA, I felt like I was in a Southern town. It took adjustment for me, but I eventually had a really good experience. What were your memories of the university?
Great memories. I know exactly what you're talking about, though. It did feel very like a little Southern, the fraternity scene, maybe, very white. um, Definitely had that feel, for sure. And I think that's why I love sports so much, because we interacted with everybody, so many cultures and races, and like so it was almost like my experience of UVA is probably different than someone else that didn't play a sport, because maybe I could see it being a little isolating for some at time, depending on what activities someone got involved with. But I loved it. I loved how much the athletes all intermixed, and we were like, men's soccer and us were like each other's biggest fans, and we would train together in the off season. And I'm still friends with, Richie Williams and Robbie Robb and, Lyle Yorks and some of those guys, like, Cindy Harks and John Harks are friends. And I would see them on the recruiting trail because their daughter played, and Darlene Del Carmen's daughter played. And I would, I'd see her, and Elise Clancy's, and I was up there. They live in Madison, and I was up there for a few things. I keep in touch with my, college, whether it's teammates or just other athletes. One of the football players passed, Kenny. Oh shoot, I'm gonna go blank on him. Kenny. What was Kenny's last name? He had a heart attack. He was an administrator at LSU, I want to say.
No, I didn't hear this. No.
Yeah. Kenny, gosh, I cannot believe I'm going blank. And it hit me because we were friends. Like he was a big lineman on the football team. And I don't know. We always had a good connection and kind of followed each other's career until we both were in college athletics. And yeah, so that hit me when I saw he passed. And so, I think I was really fortunate to feel that was like in an inclusive environment because of athletics.
Did you have a lot of friends who weren't athletes, like people you met in the dorm, or folks from your friends from Annandale that weren't playing sports?
There's not a lot. Definitely the ones in the dorm were awesome. My first year, one of my teammates, Tracy D'Amelio Kerr, who's her husband's the Duke head coach. We wanted to be in the same suite, but not the same room, because you want that separation. And so we were roommates with friends that from New Jersey, and so they were already friends, but they split up, decided not to be in the same room. And so it was cool having that bond. There was like the four of us together were really close, and hung out a lot, and just because they came from a different just they weren't athletes. And it was this a situation where you feel like you could learn from somebody else, and what's it like? And one of the parents' weekend, I had some of the family came down to they just were around with their aunt and uncle and niece or nephews, and so it was fun getting little, I don't know, education on other people's life, a little bit. Yeah. And not the soccer world.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I do remember is, and I think the skill level and talent level was so high in Northern Virginia, it didn't seem to be a huge transition to ACC soccer for you and many of the other players. I mean, you guys played right away and were competitive as freshmen.
Yeah, I think we were definitely blessed being in one of the hotbeds growing up with the club, and high school scene was very competitive, which nowadays high school isn't as competitive, depending on where you live and what where you might play. It's hit or miss how competitive high school soccer is, but the club was very, very competitive, and we benefited from that. And a lot of the players from Northern Virginia went to other ACC schools, or just around, maybe George Mason and UMass, and so we would play against them. Back then there weren't that many teams. Like the national tournament was only 12 teams to start. It was crazy.
Yeah. What did you learn from Coach Greg?
Lauren Gregg, talk about competitor.
Oh,
One of the smartest people you will ever meet. I don't know if you know, she went to med school after
no,
coaching the national team.
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's now an emergency room doctor, and she's been coaching with Nigeria, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, as an assistant coach.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, and so you can tell it's tactically brilliant. I loved training sessions because I knew they were always going to be competitive and not drawn out. Not a lot. She's not a big talker. Like she'd let us go and let us do our thing. And I really thrive in that situation.
Yeah.
I want to play. I don't want to listen.
Yeah. One thing that always seemed kind of peculiar to me, and maybe it's because, there's only a 12-team national tournament, but it all seemed a little incestuous in that, like Coach Dorans, all the coaches knew each other really well. The players knew each other really well. It seemed like it was a really tight knit and people got along. It didn't seem to be like, for example, ACC basketball in those days, like it was war, like UNC and Duke or even UVA and Duke. But it didn't seem that way for women's soccer.
Oh, it was war. We
It was
hated
war.
UNC, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because UNC was winning everything. And so like I was recruited by both schools, and it's funny, this is like Anson was the national team coach at the time, and he wanted me to come, and I think he wanted me to play like outside back, and I really wanted to be a center mid, and Lauren was like, you come be a midfielder for us. And it was really hard because I felt like if I went to UNC, maybe I was like, maybe I'd, get on the national team because my coach would be the national team coach. But ultimately I have this underdog like heart,
Me too. Yeah.
and I wanted to beat UNC more than play with them. And I cannot explain that because everyone's probably like, you're crazy. Why didn't you go to UNC? And, and I wanted to beat them, and I wanted to be a part of something at Virginia that was growing and like special and new, and like, all right, let's see what we can do at this school. And I loved it. I loved, we didn't win a national championship there, but we, had some great games and very competitive. And I did score a goal on UNC in the Final Four. It's like that's about as close as we got to winning. But they were loaded. God, they were so loaded.
Yeah. It's interesting what you say about why didn't you want to go to UNC? Because when I first started following soccer, on pro soccer, the thing that really, I don't know, not confused me, but disappointed me is all the great players ended up on the same 3 or 4 teams. They all ended up on Real Madrid, Barcelona, at the time, Manchester United, and they all would go there. And I'm like, wouldn't it be more fun to beat those teams? And then the same thing happened to basketball here. Everyone was started forming these super teams here. And I guess the ideal of getting your own team and beating those guys,
Yeah.
maybe that's from our generation. That's not the way people do it today. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, so one opportunities, you didn't have the pro opportunities that players have today. And, nowadays, not only is there a viable domestic league, there are leagues all around the world in Europe that are gaining traction. Even in Mexico, they have a league now. Do you ever wish you would have had a chance to play pro soccer the way the athletes can play today?
Well, I did in the WUSA. I played for 3 years.
Right. Okay.
I was fortunate to benefit from that early part of it, but it's not like it. Like the opportunity isn't the same.
Right.
But I
That's
did.
all right.
Like I was coaching at UCF, and I thought I was done playing soccer. Then all of a sudden, oh, there's a pro league going to start in 2001, and so I actually coached at UCF and played pro soccer for 3 years.
Wow.
And yeah, and the season. I mean, the seasons were like a lot shorter. And like I said, there was a league in Japan at the time. There was very few leagues to really consider. Like Japan was the only one that was maybe paying enough to really consider it. I went to Sweden for a season to play with Hammarby, and it was more amateur. They paid me, but I also did some work with the Karolinska Institute. And but now, I mean, it is. You look around the world, and like what you're referring to, the opportunity is there, the money is there, potential sponsorships and endorsement deals. And so the growth of our sport, it's just so fun to watch. And to answer your question, yes, I wish I had the opportunity, like the opportunities to maybe do it longer. I only did it for 3 years. But I also was at the end of my career. I was 33 years old when when the WSA folded, and that was my last year in the league, obviously. But there's so much going on now that makes it so exciting. And having those kind of opportunities, I think you see players coming out of high school now, and Trinity Rodman didn't go to college. Mal Pugh, who was at UCLA for a spring, left early to go pro. So you're going to see that more and more with the elite players.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Coach Pia. She had a fantastic success as national coach. What was she like? Now she must be an interesting person, because Europeans didn't value women's soccer to the extent the Americans did, back in the 70s and 80s as much. And here she was, definitely a pioneer in her sport. So what was she like, and what did you learn from her?
Well, Pia's great, and I had the opportunity to she played and was a player coach on Hammarby, the team I played with in Stockholm. So I got to know Pia as she was kind of at the tail end of her career and getting into coaching. And her personality is just fun. She knows the game very well. She plays guitar and sings, and she loves to, I think, she wants everyone to feel comfortable. And when I was around her as a coach, that's what I felt comfortable. And an assistant coach coming in to the national team environment can be like a little unsettling, like, I remember that camp, some of us got, I don't know if it was like a 24-hour flu or something, but I was one of the people that got it. So, and I just remember Pia was like, take your time, do what you need. And just, definitely a player's coach kind of feel to her. Very, very smart, knows the game well. And obviously has, coached now, 3 different national teams. So we'll see what she does next, but I've really enjoyed, Pia's personality and her love of music, and her love of just having an environment that feels inclusive and cohesive.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier in 2013, you won a national championship at UCLA. And, soccer could be a cruel game in that sometimes you win games that you shouldn't have won. Sometimes you lose games that you should have won. You never know. Was there anything different about the 2013 team? You had other great teams, but that was the year that you won it. What was the difference? Why was that the year you got over the hump?
It's funny because 2014 was a better team. And we had 1 loss the whole season in the Elite Eight against Virginia, a very good Virginia team with Morgan Bryan and Danielle Colaprico. And I think that, the difference in why you win or why you look at those 2 seasons, like we had the benefit of success from the year before. We had that junior class with like the Sam Ewis, Sarah Killian, Abby Dahlkemper, Megan Oyster, like that whole group that we had so many drafted into the Pro League their senior year. They had that, 1 year better. We had an awesome freshman class. And you look at the team and how we were just running through people. You look at that team and be like, well, that team should have won as well. And that's the magic of sports. Like anyone can beat you on any given day. So we didn't have this, the year that we won it, and it was my first year at UCLA. There was a couple of things that happened. One, we went to UNC and played UNC and Duke. We beat Duke and got beat by UNC and pretty handily. Like it's only 1-0, but like our keeper was huge. Caitlin Rowland, who also played in pro still. She had some monster saves. So it could have been 3-4-0. That's what it felt like as a coach. Like we didn't show up. And they played scared. And I was like, and I'm used to playing UNC. Not that we, and at UCF, we beat them. We got past UNC to get to the Elite Eight 1 year. And you could tell these players had this, UNC at the time, they don't really have it anymore, but they had that mystique of being unbeatable. And this is and of course they earned that right to have that mystique with all their success. And our players, you could tell, were just a little bit, shy or snake bit or whatever the word, just didn't play. So I was like, oh, okay, that's, I was early on. That was before we had conference games. And then we played Stanford in conference. And that was another game. That was another thing. Stanford had this mystique. And I didn't realize, and Stanford to me, it wasn't like anything big, like a UNC. I felt like Stanford's like, oh, it's all right. It's just Stanford. But obviously Stanford was very good as well. And it was interesting because that game we went up a goal, and I had heard the previous couple of years at UCLA when I wasn't there had gone up a goal and then lost, like they had given up the lead. And so we went up the goal, and so like everyone's like, oh no, are we going to hold on to this? And so I'm like, and so Stanford tied it up 1-1, and I'm still like, I'm feeling confident we're playing well, and we put a rookie in during. So now we're in golden goal, how college used to be. I don't think they're doing golden goal anymore.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And we put a rookie in, and I remember my assistant Louise Lieberman, who's now the head at San Diego. She told this rookie, she's like, you're gonna score, and these rookies, I think we just gave these rookies the confidence to go in and be world beaters. And she goes in there and scores this left-footed bomb to beat Stanford and with the golden goal. And that's the moment where, and the celebration was almost like we had won a national championship. They did a dog pile and everything, because it was such I don't think they had beaten Stanford in years. I don't know how. At that point when UCLA had beat them last, but I think it'd been like 4 years of not beating Stanford, which is like a no when you're at UCLA. Yeah. So that was a huge win. I think that win gave the team that, the air about them and the confidence and, the swagger a little bit of like, maybe we can do this. Cause I don't know if they had that belief before. And then we ended up playing UNC again in the Elite Eight. So that run, like that playoff run too, if you look back at it, has to be one of the hardest to win a national champion, because we had to play Stanford in the Sweet 16, then UNC in the Elite Eight, then Virginia in the semifinals, and then Florida State. And I think 3 of the 4 had been national champions the previous 4 years. So that run with those teams was insanely hard. And like we were down against Virginia, and then went to penalty kicks. We were in overtime against UNC and got a golden goal. We went to overtime against Florida State and got one in a golden goal. So all those games came out down to like the littlest things. And that's the game of soccer sometimes. It's just like that one run. And I still can see the national championship game goal. Megan Oyster as our center back penetrates on the dribble. Cody Lebreski, and what made us so happy as a staff too, because it was a run and a pass we had worked on so much, is the timing of that outside to inside run and staying on side, and then the playmaker finding a gap, not finding the player, but you find the gap and the space to play it in. Awesome pass by Megan Oyster. Cody gets on the end of it, and first times. And it was like this simple. It looked this simple, but it was like, that's what soccer should be. It is simple. It should be simple when you're the spacing and the timing and the angles are right. And it was a great celebration and awesome win.
And then the Gatorade bath. So, well, look, Amanda, this has been great. I always wanted to meet you, and I'm so glad you took the time. I did want to ask you one question. So we just finished with the World Cup, and it didn't go well. And when you analyze the World Cup, are we getting to the point now where the rest of the world is catching up to us? We know we're not the only country that all of our young girls are playing soccer, and the rest of the world is catching up. Is there something technically or tactically wrong with our team? What's your analysis of this? Or, sometimes you lose. What's your analysis of this?
I mean, my first comment is the world caught up years ago, like the last World Cup, even though we won. I mean, Jill did an awesome job with back-to-back World Cups. Just talking about winning one national championship and how hard that was. So applaud Jill and that staff and those teams, because they had to make hard decisions and popular decisions, and some players were disgruntled. And
I still see them people still arguing about those decisions on Twitter, like,
Yeah.
like 4 years later.
Like, you win 2 World Cups. I think you're good. I think it's time to stop nitpicking that.
Yeah.
And so the world caught up back then, and I was in France for that World Cup, and it was like you could just see like it was the power, the speed, the technical ability of all of these countries. I mean, there were so many teams that I watched. I was like, wow, everyone's here to win it, and it's not yes, there is, you do have the disparity in like CONCACAF. Like if you're playing some of the island teams, they're just not there yet. They don't have the funding, they don't have the player pool, and they need some development for sure. But in the world, we're not going to just roll over teams and win everything. But yeah, I think our results could have been different, I'm never one to claim to make criticism of a coach, because I'm not in the environment. You never know what's going on in the environment, and who has a knock, or who mentally is maybe not where they need to be. You always have to think about their form, and it's not only the physical form, there's a mental and emotional place they need to be as well. I think the younger players, like I would have loved, because Ashley Sanchez played for me at UCLA. I would have loved to have seen her utilized more. Alyssa Thompson, who I recruited to UCLA and ended up going to Angel City straight away. I would, because they add different dimension to that team with their ability on the ball. That's pretty special. So I would there's certain players I'd like to see utilized more. Whether that would have changed the results, who knows? But the team is going to get younger soon. There's there's a changing of the guard, so to speak, right now, and so I think the youth coming up, they have a lot of potential, and you'll see the U.S. on top of the getting the gold medal again.
Yeah, you mentioned quickly Trinity Rodman skipping college or going right to the pros. Are we going to see more of that on the girls' side, you think?
For sure. Like Alyssa Thompson just did it. So yeah, you'll definitely see more of it. I don't know if it's going to be like this mass exodus, because whether the money is not there, or people do want to get their degrees, they want to have a career afterwards. But some of the clubs around the world, they're making it worth their while when with endorsements. It's not a hard decision anymore. It used to be, I think, a hard decision. Like for when I'm going blank on her name. She was going to go to UNC and then went to Lyon, I think. Oh
God.
Why am I going blank? So one of our midfielders.
Yeah, she's blonde. I can't think of the name. Yeah, I can't think of the name.
I'm totally going blank.
Yeah, I'm older than you are, so I'm really blank. But yeah.
I can see her. Anyway, when she made that decision, I think it was tougher. And now it's like if you're an elite player, I don't know if it's that tough of a decision anymore. Yeah, I think there's something to be said about the development of a young male or female in the college game, right? And not just a development about your game, but like you as a person. I think colleges can be an important step for a lot of players to develop, mentally, emotionally, how to learn to be a leader, a good teammate, receive and give feedback. Because I think sometimes if you go into an environment straight away from high school, you don't have some of those tools, and maybe you didn't have the resources or the environment to get better at navigating what it's like to be a pro. So I do think for most that the college game is a good step, and maybe just for 2 years, like some other sports, I think, what is it basketball is it still one and done in basketball, or do they have to go 2 years now? Is it?
No, they can go one and done, and they also have like a pro league, like an under 21 pro league. I think it's called the D League now, development league now. So they're trying to work with athletes to create other paths besides college.
What is football? 2 or 3 years they have to go?
Oh my God, I think it's 3.
I think it is.
Maybe it's 8. Maybe it's age also in football.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's for good reason.
You ask
Definitely.
tough questions. You ask tough questions.
Yeah.
So, well, look, Amanda, you have a lot of fans in Northern Virginia. We love you. We think we love watching you compete. Great coach. So, we support you, and all of us are looking forward to, seeing how your business develops and helping when we can. We know it's going to be very successful because you have a lot to offer other coaches and executives as well. And thanks for all the great memories you've given us.
Oh, thank you. And I love following your posts, and giving love to all the athletes in Northern Virginia. And I just, wish you all the best as well. And thank you for kind of giving us this platform and helping us with our endeavors.
Yeah, anytime. Well, hopefully you'll come on again in a couple of years, and we'll talk about how you're doing.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thanks, Amanda. Great talking to you.
All right, see you.
Yeah, take care.